My takes on the newly released Rivals recruiting rankings.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day, here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are brought to you by FanDuel, where right now new customers can bet $5, and if it wins, you can get $300 to use across the FanDuel app. Just join today. We're going to be talking about the newly released Rivals recruiting rankings from both a player and team perspective. First, I'll go through the first 30 to 50 players and discuss a whole bunch of them from a what can they do perspective, where they're going, some recruiting scoop, just kind of have some fun with it. And then I want to talk a little bit about the rankings that are newly released and go through that as well. So we're going to have fun. So sit back and relax. And if you got any comments or questions, please fire away. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk about some of the players that are ranked at the very top of the board and then kind of go down the list and just have some fun with it because there's so many good players on this group. It's really easy to have a good time. So number one, Jackson Cantwell. Rivals has him number one. I do as well. As a matter of fact, I'll get to the point where you can see all five of their top five players. Cantwell, Jared Curtis, Carter Meadows, Kelvin Obot, and Lamar Brown are their top five. I have a very different group after number one, but I get it. It's very hard and it's very subjective. And all the kids that I've seen live are in my top five. But I've got Cantwell number one. I've got Keyshawn Henderson number two, Richard Anderson number three, Ryder Lyons number four, and Kevin Brown number five. But I digress. The point is that this is not an easy thing. I know a lot of people get mad about rankings, but that's okay. Rankings are very difficult with high school kids because they play different levels of competition. And their number two, Jared Curtis, is probably the greatest example of that. He has one of the strongest arms I've ever seen at the high school level. He plays at Nashville Christian. And Jared told me about a year or so ago that the competition he's playing is not great. You want to be at that school, and you just got to go out and dominate. And it's true. He does, but how will he adjust to the next level? It's really, really hard to say. But Jared Curtis is a big-time player. You know, like Cantwell going to Miami, I think he'll start. Curtis will play very, very early. Obviously, the Dogs have a quarterback that's another year of eligibility, so I don't think Curtis will start as a freshman. But if he starts as a redshirt freshman at UGA, wouldn't surprise anybody. Again, the only question, how well does he adjust to the next level? He's got all the physical tools, and he's probably a better athlete than most people think, too. Very talented young man. Carter Meadows going to the University of Michigan. He's out of Gonzaga in Washington, D.C. This is one of the best programs in the greater D.C. area. Length for days, and he has the ability to bend the edge. He could be a top five pick at one point. It would not surprise me. I have not seen him live. I'd love to, but this is a guy, if he ends up again being a top five pick, it wouldn't surprise me. Penn State, Ohio State, and a whole bunch of other schools really went after him. He decided on Michigan. Kelvin Obot, maybe the hardest grade for anybody in the top 50. He is destroying people out in the state of Idaho. He's from Fruitland, Idaho. I don't even know where that's at, but you watch the high school film, and he's just killing people. The frame is there, though. He's 6'6", 6'7", and I don't think he's a kid that is done filling out. He could be a 10-year NFL left tackle. Love his film. Lamar Brown, this is a kid that's listed as an athlete on Rivals. You don't see a lot of guys that are over 280 listed as an athlete, but he could play D-tackle, nose guard, offensive guard, maybe play offensive tackle. Lamar Brown is really gifted, and he wants to play D-line. LSU's given him that chance. I think he will be very good there, but at the same time, I prefer him on the offensive line. So we'll see how that goes, but really gifted young player. Luke Wayfield, he's got a brother at Penn State. This is a kid that's decided he's going to take his talents all the way to Los Angeles to play for the Trojans. Another edge. I think he could grow into a three-tech, but at the same time, at his length, could he be that power end that can be a pass rusher? Probably. And I really like him as a player overall. First step quickness is very, very good. And he's a guy that has the athleticism, again, to bend the edge, kind of like some of the other players on this list, like Meadows, really, really talented. Zion Ely, I saw him at Under Armour this past January, going to Maryland. keeping a kid home. He's from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. Big-time talent that doesn't really have his frame filled out yet. He's 220, 230 range. Once he has filled out, I think Ely will be a guy that could play some strong side, but I still like him best as a weak side, just pure pin the ears back, bend the edge pass rusher, and they never go out of style. So Ely could be the best just pure weak side end in the country this year, and a lot of people probably have him as number one on their board. I could see why they do or do not. He's not as versatile, I think, as Carter Meadows, but that's okay. Sometimes if you're just great at bending the edge, that's all right. I think Meadows will eventually be a guy that can play both ends in spots. Savion Hyder. This is another guy that's hard to grade for me. He is one of the fastest running backs in the country. He's over 200 pounds. The only thing with him, for me, they got him number 8, and he's going to Michigan as well. So he hits the hole so hard sometimes. I wish he was a little more patient, but physical gifts are just insane. If he figures it out and he warrants patience, this is a guy that can be the first back off the board whatever year he ends up going to the NFL draft. Number 9, they've got Dia Bell out of American Heritage down in Fort Lauderdale. I've known Dia for a while, known his dad Roger for a while. Really good people. For those you don't remember, Roger Bell played in the NBA for quite a long time. Great defensive stopper and three-point shooter. Dia is a young man that is a distributor and a thinker. He will diagnose a play and make it happen. And it's probably why he won the Elite 11 competition out in Los Angeles this year. Not just elite skills, but his ability to just manufacture something out of nothing where the defense does a good job and he'll still find a way to get positive yardage. The really great quarterbacks at the NFL level, and Phil Simms talked about this one time, sometimes you got to go with the easy stuff. Don't play long to short, play short to long. Phil Simms said that the best way to rack up yards is hitting checkdowns. You know, it's boring, but if it's 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, you can move the sticks and you can win games, and then your yardage will go from there. Dia can do that, and then when you give him an opportunity, he can definitely throw it up over the top. So Dia Bell's a really smart kid. He's ahead of the game. I'm not surprised he's ranked really high, and he's earned it. Great young man. Rodney Dunham, going to the University of Notre Dame. He's from Myers Park in the greater Charlotte area. This is an athlete that has the physical traits. When you see him on the hoof, like just watching his film, I haven't had a chance to see him live. I would love to, but when you see him just walk out on the field, like he looks different than most of the other guys out there. This is what a defensive edge player is supposed to look like in terms of his muscle mass, lower body frame, like the thin lower legs, explosive. Notre Dame got a player that fits their scheme because they want to be aggressive. He will be very good. Number 11, Grayson McKeo, another kid going to Notre Dame. He's out of LaSalle College, just outside of Philly. He's a guy that has transitioned. He's been an athlete in multiple sports and tight end, moving to tackle. Upside is through the roof. I don't think he's completely to where some of the other offensive tackles are in this class necessarily, but the way he moves is very unique, and he can literally do a backflip at over 250 pounds. I think this is a young man that you're going to see end up being the left tackle for the Fighting Irish, and that kind of is self-explanatory. Could have went to any school in the country, ended up picking Notre Dame over Penn State, but really talented. Jace Matthews, this is a guy that I'm just going to pat myself on the back here. I jumped on his bandwagon early. I thought he was a 5-star guy a long time ago. And athletically, I think he's the best pure athlete in the entire 2026 class. The way he jumps, his flexibility, he'll catch a ball way behind him, one-handed and bring it back. He has elite speed, and he wins 50-50 balls. This just isn't an athlete either. Like, he has football acumen and football IQ. He makes it happen on the field. He applies the athleticism with his knowledge. It makes plays that other guys don't. And again, this is somebody that's probably going to test out over 40 inches on the vertical. He could dunk a basketball by taking it through his legs when he was in 9th grade. Very unique. We'll scoop on him that was recently put out that Ole Miss got a crystal ball for him. I'll be interested to see if he sticks with Auburn, but this is going to be a recruiting battle to the end. It's not like LSU or anybody else is going to stop recruiting him either. He's out of Greene County in Weeksville, Mississippi. Every school in the country should want Jace Matthews. He's what you're looking for in a wide receiver. Richard Wesley. This is a kid going to Texas. He's out of Sierra Canyon in the greater LA area. Another big-bodied, athletic guy on the edge. Does he grow into a 3-tech? I don't know, but he changed classes. Richard is technically class of 27 and has brought himself up to the 26 class, especially with him being a defensive lineman. I think it may take him a little longer to adjust to college. We'll see. But his frame says this is what it looks like, kind of like with Dunham. He's a little thicker than Dunham, but he has that athleticism and that burst off the edge. I don't know if he's going to play strong side end or end up at D tackle. That'll take care of itself. I just know that Richard Wesley is the kind of guy that you want on your team. Kari Wilder, this is a really explosive interior pass rusher. He's a little undersized for it. He could probably play strong side end. He's headed to Ohio State. He plays at Sarah in Gardena, California. The Buckeyes got him, but he was incredible at the Rivals 5-star event. Loved him. And I thought he was the deserving winner of the D-line group. And to be honest with you, I was shocked that it took this long for as many people as out there that there is to rank him higher. But Rivals people got to see him at this event. I'm not sure that a lot of the people from 24/7, et cetera, have seen him, but Wilder was unbelievable. And with his frame, he could be a 285-pound 3-tech that is just a nightmare in one-on-ones at the college level. And it is rare to find defensive tackles that can rush the passer. Then you've got Emmanuel Iheanacho. This is a kid that plays at Georgetown Prep in D.C. He's 350, give or take, and he has the ability to just power through guys as you would expect. But believe it or not, he's pretty limber. I saw him at the Under Armour event down in Orlando. I don't think there are many guys really built like him in terms of a power perspective that could also eventually play left tackle. I prefer him at right tackle now, and he could play guard. But if he gets himself in really good shape, I think Iheanacho is a guy that could end up being the top tackle in this class. It's up to him. Right now, I think Cantwell is the easy pick because I think he's in better shape. But why not Emmanuel? He could be that guy as well. When we come back, we're going to go through the next 15 or so recruits. We're going to talk about some of the players and where they're headed and why. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. And it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP, who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it down. For me, Florida State wide receiver Deuce Robinson was awesome last weekend. He had 2 touchdowns on 160 yards and about a quarter of play. That's going to get yourself going at a very high rate. And making plays like that is awesome. But there's a lot of other guys around college football. Just think to yourself, how many threw the ball and put the money ball where it needed to be, kind of like in a perspective where if I don't make this play, our team is going to lose. How many guys were like that? There were so many high-scoring games. It's incredible. Marcel Reed at Texas A&M helping beat Notre Dame. You had different guys. C.J. Carr in that game had some great throws. Quarterbacks all over college football did that as well. So wherever you looked for quarterback play, you certainly had an option there as well. And just like a player like Marcel Reed delivered for Texas A&M or Deuce Robinson for Florida State, DoorDash Streaks delivers for you. You can save up to $250 at $100 in DoorDash credits. All you got to do is order from DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo is good through November 18th. And we're also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel has the opportunity to get in on the action with your first $5 bet, giving you the opportunity to get $300 in bonus bets across the app. You can bet on games, halftime scores, player props, parlays, or anything else. FanDuel has you covered. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app and use FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Let's break it back down with all the different things going on and happening over at the Rivals top group of recruits. It's, again, it's a fun way to go through this at this point. We've seen a little bit of their senior film. I think the next update is the most important when we get through some October film because all the kids will have played against somebody. But again, let's break it back down. I'm now down to number 16 on this list. Out of the top 15 or so kids, there are plenty of good players, but this next young man is another one that deserves a lot of credit. James Johnson, another interior pass rusher. Very rare. He still has a lot of guys coming after him, Florida, Miami, etc. He's committed to the Texas Longhorns. He's from Miami, Florida, plays at Northwestern. I think this is a young man that could still end up somewhere else. He was originally committed to Georgia. Let's see where his recruitment goes, but this is a get up the field, make it happen, defensive tackle. I don't think that his recruitment is even close to done. That'll be interesting. One recruitment that is done, Sam Greer, Archbishop Hoban in Akron, Ohio. He was awesome at Rivals 5-star, committed to the Ohio State Buckeyes. That shut down. This could be a left tackle for the Buckeyes for a long time. I think he is a great prospect, and I believe he's a guy that's going to end up playing very, very early for Ryan Day and the Bucks. Cody Green, speaking of offensive tackles, and by the way, 17 of the top 30 guys on this Rivals list are linemen. Cody Green is from Mater Dei, the famous program just outside of Los Angeles. He is committed to the Washington Huskies after originally making his pledge to play for Oregon. I think Cody might come in and play at Washington. It's not often that happens, but they don't have a lot of guys with his size and athleticism. He's just over 300 pounds, and he's played at a program that he's been coached up well. I haven't seen him live, but I'd love to. Really, really great film. And again, he's a little more technically advanced than some guys, so he might be able to play early for the Huskies. Tristan Keys, this is a great young man out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, committed to Tennessee after originally committing to LSU. Highly doubt that recruitment's over either. Ole Miss, Auburn, and a whole bunch of other programs are still going to come after him, I'm sure. We'll see where that one trends. But right now he is committed to the Vols. He is the most consistent wide receiver out of all the top guys in terms of not just athleticism, not just size. He's 6'2", 6'3", but his ability to run routes, all those things combined, he has the highest floor of all the receivers, I think, at the top of the board. And he's a really good guy, too. He really, really is a competitive young man, and he's a good kid to have in your program. Anthony Jones, St. Paul's Episcopal in Mobile, Alabama. I had a chance to meet him when he was still a sophomore, and he looked like he was headed into college already. He is committed to the Oregon Ducks. A lot of people thought he was going to Bama, but Oregon got him. Can they keep him? That's going to be an interesting one because Alabama, LSU, and everybody else is still going to come after him. Jones is elite. He's 240-plus pounds, and he's probably the best prospect in the state of Alabama on the defensive side, maybe overall. Really, really good young man. I think Oregon's got another defensive lineman that's going to play early. It's incredible how talented their D-line group is already, too. Mark Bowman, tight end out of Mater Dei, another kid from the Monarchs. Big kid. I saw him when he was a sophomore. Not your normal guy. I believe he's a reclass as well. Not sure that you can really build a frame better than Mark's to play tight end. When I saw him play 7-on-7, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This kid is just turning 16. He looked like he was ready to play in the Big Ten at that point. USC is going to get a plug-and-play tight end. I think he will play basically from day one, and if he's starting as a tight end before the end of his freshman year for the Trojans, won't surprise me because he's a good blocker. He takes technique seriously, and he's got natural hands. And he's 6'4", 6'5", 230 pounds. Really, really good player, Mark Bowman. Devon Benjamin, another greater L.A. kid. He's out of Oaks Christian, going to Oregon. I don't know a ton about him. I might have seen him at a 7-on-7 and didn't know it, but he's been really, really talked about a bunch, and I love his huddle film. The question is, where's he going to play at? I think he could play multiple spots. Maybe it's nickel. Maybe it's the ability to play outside. Maybe he even ends up at safety. He's just got really good ball skills. Guys like that, you figure it out after you get it on campus. If he wants to play corner, that's fine, but I'm giving him even more credit than that. I wish I'd had an opportunity to see him work out right in front of me and me knowing who he was, but man, he is a really athletic player. I really like Devon Benjamin. Richard Anderson, this is a guy that I have in my top 5. I think he's the most unique defensive lineman I've seen in several years. When I saw him at Under Armour in New Orleans, Richard told me he weighed 356, and they went and they did the one-on-one drills for pass rush. He was quicker than some of the guys that are 270. And again, he told me he weighed 356 pounds. LSU is getting a really, really good player, but it is so rare to find a guy that's strong enough to two-gap, could play a one-tack and be at one gap and go as a pass rusher, or he's still athletic enough, even at 350 plus, to be placed at three-tech. That is rare. I don't know if Richard Anderson has a preference on where he plays, but man, he is an explosive athlete. Joey O'Brien, I saw him at Rivals 5-star. He's a commitment going to Notre Dame. He's another kid from LaSalle College, like Makio, the other kid going to Notre Dame. And O'Brien is 6'4.5", 180 pounds, give or take. I think he'll end up at free safety. He might play some nickel. He told me he's going to try a few different things once he enrolls at the University of Notre Dame. But I was surprised at how much he could flip his hips and run with guys when he played corner. I think he's going to outgrow it. I'm not sure he's done it. 6'4.5", being a guy that maybe ends up at 6'6". I don't know, but he's very thin and still filling out, and he's still twitchy. Like, Notre Dame got a very special talent. I just don't know exactly how he's going to be used, and that may not be a bad thing. He can run. He can flip the hips. He's going to play somewhere in Notre Dame secondary, and Mike Mickens has proven he can coach defensive backs. Xavier Crowell out of Jackson, Alabama. He's another kid that reclassed. He's going to the University of Alabama. He's very explosive. He's an athletic kid in terms of his lateral ability, if nothing else. Like, he's so fast, he can pretty much tell you what he's going to do and get to the outside. I would love to see him run more on the interior. Probably go see him play during the playoffs. Jackson's going to kill most of the teams they play in Alabama, and they are loaded. They've got a whole bunch of good football players on that team going to college football programs around the country. But Crowell is a guy that I think is going to end up being a starter at Alabama for multiple years. Just needs to fill out his frame, and I'd love to see him run more between the tackles because he is 100% a home run hitter. Ian Premer, this is a tight end out of Great Bend, Kansas. This is a good story. His high school film is hilarious because Premer is a guy that just isn't challenged that much in Kansas. Athletically, I think he's a guy that if you wanted to transition him to play him at defensive end, you absolutely could. Has the frame to do it. He's got the twitchiness as well. But why I think tight end is still better, the hands. Ian is a kid that catches the football in traffic. He can make the catches off the turf. He can catch the ball up high. When you have somebody with that kind of athleticism in today's game, he is a mismatch in the spread offense, and Notre Dame will be very fortunate to have him. If you like home run threats at receiver, Naeem Burrows out of the Bowl School. He's one of the fastest guys I've seen in the last couple of years. He was tremendous at the Under Armour game. I think he's somebody that we're going to see play early at Clemson. They like speedy receivers anyway. He's not the biggest guy per se. He's roughly 5'11", 180, 190, something like that. But the Clemson Tigers got him wrapped up early. He understands what it means to get by somebody and stack them. He's been coached up. The Bowl School does a tremendous job in Jacksonville, Florida. This is a kid that's going to hit the ground running for Clemson. Lawrence Timmons, probably somebody on this list that's gotten the least fanfare out of anybody in the top 28. Going to Florida State. His dad played there, and he's from the greater Pittsburgh area, plays at Pine Richland. They've had a lot of good recruits. Go to Pitt, Penn State, and a whole bunch of other programs. I think that he will play fairly early at Florida State, but they've got some pretty good DBs. Physicality is the key with Timmons. I haven't seen him play live, but his huddle film is really, really good. Ebenezer Iwatade, another kid going to Notre Dame, another defensive end out of North Carolina too, going to play for the Irish. He's probably a little rawer than Dunham. He might have a higher upside. Depends on one's perspective. He's not as filled out as Dunham, but he's still got that same twitchy frame, still long-legged, athletic, and could really bend. I think he's the guy that is the traditional weak side end, probably a guy that's going to end up at 240 or so, maybe 245, might even be able to play in a 3-4 as an outside linebacker. Love him. Rivals has him at 29. I have no problem with it. I wouldn't have him quite as high yet, but his ceiling is just through the roof. He's just scratching the surface, and Rivals went ahead and put him at number 29. And to finish out the top 30, Justice Fitzpatrick, a kid out of St. Thomas Aquinas. No surprise there. His brother, obviously, is Minka. That's a young man that is very athletic. I like him personally at safety more than corner, or maybe playing him in some nickel role, but he is explosive. When Fitzpatrick puts his foot in the ground, he can change direction and go north-south like very few guys can. I think he will be tremendous in the run game, and that's why I really think that safety he has a higher floor than he even does at corner. Just overall, looking at the list, and I'll scroll through it for those of you that are on YouTube here so you can see, it's a really traditional list on who's got the commitments, but the overall theme, a lot of linemen, and for the skill guys, a lot of height. This has become a more measurable situation with rankings. If you wonder why somebody's not ranked as high, measurables are almost always a part of the evaluation because we are doing projections in this industry. And I know most of the guys that do the rankings, it's hard. We all have disagreements on who should be ranked somewhere. But if you look through some of these guys, like Jamarian Matthews, for instance, the edge going to Alabama, he's really good, but he's 6'2.5". If he was 6'4.5", he might be top 10. Measurables, measurables, measurables. Faison Brandon is a guy that I would have higher. They got him at number 33. He's a kid that's super athletic, a little raw in some ways, but just an incredibly gifted young man. Kari Adams, Zion Gillis, Braylon Womack. These are all really good players. And like Brandon Arrington, I'm surprised they don't have him higher. He's one of the fastest players in the country. He's a sub-10, 300 meters. He's going to A&M. He's from the greater San Diego area. This is just an incredible list. Darius Gray was a kid that I would have higher, but they've got him in the top 50. Just look at it from a perspective when you think about these rankings. It's not just who's the guy that is the best player. They're trying to figure out who's going to be the best player long term. That's probably the biggest difference with this compared to what some other people might have. So if you look at it from a perspective of, okay, why isn't this guy higher? Try to look at it from another angle. I know that the recruiting services get hammered. Why isn't my guy or the team that I root for, why don't they have somebody? Every year it's a little different. Ironically, Notre Dame fans are usually complaining about a bunch of this. And as I'm going to talk about here in a second, they're now number one in the Rivals rankings. Several of their guys moved up. It's just one of those things. So remember, the people that do the rankings, they work hard. It is very difficult because kids are playing against different levels of competition, yet everybody's got to be ranked. It is one of the hardest jobs in the football industry, ranking high school recruits. So when we come back, I'm going to talk about the team rankings a little bit, and we're also going to break down some of the perspectives on why teams should be happy with where they're at or maybe needing to add some more parts. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda. You can move through life, or you can find things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it, like really go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda. Move and be moved. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Just breaking down some of the Rivals recruiting rankings, and now we're going to move into the team rankings. This is something that's very subjective as well. There are different ways to do it. Some people, like the 24/7 Sports Network, they do it based on points. From what I understand, the old on-3 method, and I assume that's moved over to Rivals, I don't know. There's some subjectivity to it, like how well balanced you have your class, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to discuss that a little bit as it relates to LSU, who, just as an example here before I dive into the Tigers, they have 3 defensive tackles. They're elite recruits, but they don't have necessarily a balanced class. How do you do that? Because defensive tackle is a priority position for every team every year. There just aren't enough of them. And right now, LSU is hoarding them. Recruiting rankings aside, just for players, team rankings have their own little idiosyncrasies that make it very unique. Keep that in mind in general. And again, I'm going to share my screen here in a second, and we'll kind of go through some of the different teams and why they are ranked the way they are ranked. It's, again, I'm going to give my perspective, my takes on it, but this is hard. And I'm not going to sit there and complain about somebody being ranked higher, somebody being ranked lower. This is just what they have right now. And I'll give my takes on the situation for each of these teams as we go through. But number one for them now is, are we surprised to me? Like they're never this high at this point in the year, and that's Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a team that usually finishes somewhere between 8 and like 12 to 14. They've got them number one, and they had several guys move up. The way they have their rankings set up on Rivals, I mean, they have them listed with 2 5-stars, but at the same time, if at the end of the year, their top 32 players will be ranked. And they do 5 stars. They rank them based on the industry. So it's kind of goofy. So the way you look at, but they've got 5 guys like Notre Dame right now in the Rivals top 29. That's a lot. And for my rankings, here are some of the numbers that they had just from the Rivals top 30 players. Notre Dame had 5, Ohio State 2, Michigan 2, Georgia 2, Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama all had 1. Clemson had 1. Surprisingly, Penn State didn't have any. LSU had 2, Texas 3, A&M didn't have any. Oregon 3, USC 2, Florida didn't have any. Florida State won, Miami won, Maryland won, Utah won, Washington won, South Carolina had a guy at 44, Oklahoma 41. So it's interesting. Like some of these teams are right on the fringe, didn't quite make it. But again, it's very subjective. So Notre Dame's class is very balanced. That's the one thing that I will say about it. You've got quarterback, you've got 2 running backs, you've got 6 offensive linemen, they have 4 defensive linemen. It's a really good group. They've got 5 receivers. That was a need for the Irish. I don't have any problem with them being number 1, but I would like to see another high-end defensive tackle. I'm sure they'd love to have Richard Anderson or somebody like that, or maybe Deuce or somebody that's a D tackle at LSU, but we'll get into that in a second. Georgia, they got them number 2. The Bulldogs are interesting because while they don't have a class that is number 1 by rivals, if I had to rank classes right now, I would probably rank that team number 1 or number 2. It depends. The other one that I would have super high is SC, but SC hasn't quite met the needs at offensive line. So I'm curious what Rivals is doing for their subjectivity with the team rankings now. SC's got to get better in the trenches, and they're starting to get there, but they need to do it through the high school ranks, not just the portal. We'll see how SC season plays out if I'm right about that, but I think they're a couple of years away from where they need to be in the trenches, being the old school Pete Carroll. USC Trojans, they were really good in the trenches. This team is not quite there yet, and they started to address it. Georgia, their offensive line class, their ability to get elite defensive linemen, I think they're at 8 defensive linemen. That changes the ball game. When you're at that kind of level, I mean, it's kind of like with LSU. They're hoarding the players that everybody needs. Not only are they getting them, their competition won't have them to play against the Dogs. And the guy that is following in that order, yeah, that would be Oregon. Dan Lanning, who did he coach under? Saban and Smart before he took the Oregon job. So he knew what he was doing, and ironically, Oregon is ranked, according to Rivals, as number 3 between number 2 Georgia and number 4 Alabama on this recruiting rankings. I like the fact that they hit the trenches again. They never stop with that. They've got plenty of talent at the skill spots, and they've got another good quarterback coming in. They've done a good job at stacking QBs, probably about as good as anybody in the country. They've got a SoCal kid coming in with a cannon for an arm. Oregon's class, though, they steal players that you just don't expect. They got Emmanuel out there at Georgetown Prep in D.C., the big offensive tackle. They get Anthony Jones from Mobile, St. Paul's Episcopal. You just never know where they're going to get guys. They got a kid from O'Galley High School in Melbourne, Florida. They do a better job of recruiting nationally than anybody. So Oregon's class, I have no problem with it being number 3. Next up, number 4, Bama. I still think they have some really important pieces. They got to try to flip Anthony Jones from Oregon, and they've got to finish up in their class a little bit in state. In the state of Georgia, there's some kids they got to try to keep and some guys are trying to flip. It's the traditional SEC battles. And watch Alabama with some of the kids that are inevitably going to be leaving the Florida class. Yes, it's pretty much guaranteed that Billy Napier is going to get canned. That's not any secret. And when he does, Alabama should be one of the programs involved. Florida has recruited kids in Georgia, Florida, Alabama, etc. The same footprint that Bama recruits from. Do not be surprised if some of them end up with the Tide. Same thing with UGA for that perspective. USC, whether you rank them number 1, number 5, or anywhere in between, 2 notes on the Trojans from my perspective. First off, they are addressing the trenches with numbers. That was pivotal. Number 2, they got a few high-end guys, and that's good. But more importantly, it's a class across the board. They have somebody at about every single position. They get a quarterback out of Chicago. They get elite players from SoCal. That's been their biggest priority. I should bring that up. That should be my number 1. They had neglected Southern Cal far too much. They hit it hard this year. If you take nothing away from the USC point here, they're getting the LA and the greater San Diego kids, et cetera, that they need to get on campus to at least give themselves a shot. They don't get all of them, but they've been getting them on campus. That gives the USC Trojans a chance to be an elite program again, especially in the trenches. Hats off to them for conservatively a top 5 class. I would have them ranked higher. Ohio State. Wilder is somebody I brought up earlier. They've got Greer and their entire class is good. But some Ohio State fans have been complaining they don't have enough 5 stars. That's how spoiled Ohio State fans are. This is a very well-balanced class. There are a couple kids in state they've missed on. That's a little surprising. But overall, this is a class that can keep you in the national title hunt year in and year out. They get an LA quarterback that's really good and underrated. They get all these guys from around the country, and they've done good enough in state. Never know, if they flip a couple guys, they could end up in the top 4 before all is said and done. Texas A&M, very balanced in terms of the positions. Kasuga, the quarterback out of Utah, I saw him at Rivals 5-star. Love him. He's very underrated. I think that's a guy that's going to end up being a big-time player for A&M and being a multi-year starter. Super accurate, super intelligent. I think A&M got a steal. And they got Aaron Gregory out of Georgia, one of the best receivers in the country. Got his teammate, a defensive lineman. They got tons of good players. I think A&M is somebody that is going to end up being very happy with their haul. Ironically, that it's a little more national. Kids from the West Coast, kids from Georgia. They got a defensive lineman, Kinsler from New Jersey. Like, it's a very unique class. You don't think of A&M recruiting like that. But hey, good players are good players, and the Aggies are getting it done. Texas is a little more local, with the D-line being the separate part of the entity. Let's see if they can keep Johnson in the fold. Let's see who else they get down the stretch. But Texas has a chance to end up in the top 5 because they're still going to have a chance to flip some in-state kids too. Do not be surprised with that. And again, they got Diabella. They got their man that they wanted at quarterback. That's big. Michigan has Hyder. They've got some linemen. They've got a good class. I think they could probably take another step up on defense because of how well they played this year. Don't be surprised they flipped some guys. And by the way, they haven't been given enough credit. They need help at receiver. They got multiple really good receivers. All the guys they have in their class at receiver are good. With Bryce Underwood, I'm not surprised. It wouldn't be hard to sell that with him in Ann Arbor. Do not sleep on them. And finally, the one that I teased a little bit ago, and that's LSU. I want to bring this up and just kind of go through it in a sense. Look at their class. LSU is unique because, again, do you want balance? How do you want to present LSU? Lamar Brown's going to play D-line for them. They got Trenton Henderson. They got Richard Anderson. They got all these guys. And then a receiver, no surprise. Jabari Max, one of the best receivers in the country. Havon Finney's a guy they get out of L.A. He's one of the few kids that got away from the Trojans. So they got some of that. Deuce Gerald's has family ties to Baton Rouge. He's another interior defensive lineman. Martinez is a really good offensive lineman. Their O-line, D-line class is the best combo in the country. They got Dylan Purter, a kid out of Alabama that's one of the best defensive backs in the South. So they stole him. Aiden Hall, another kid, is a really good DB out of New Orleans. Kenny Darby, another kid that can really fly. He's a kid from in-state. All this, but they didn't get the linebackers like they normally do. Quarterback, something they got to figure out. Does it matter at the end of the day what you do in terms of balance? This is something that I have personally struggled with a little bit. And this is what I mean. When you think about a class, you would prefer to have like one quarterback, one or two running backs, 2 or 3 receivers, et cetera, et cetera. But LSU has a very unique situation with their in-state recruiting. For whatever reason, the state of Louisiana produces as many, if not more, defensive line recruits than any other state in the country per capita. It's insane. Even Deuce Gerald, who lives in Georgia, he has family ties, face-to-face conversation. Family in, guess where? Baton Rouge. Richard Anderson from New Orleans. He plays at Edna Carr. He's elite. You got Brown. He's a kid from Baton Rouge. You're not going to stop recruiting those kids. You over-recruit D-tackle. So does the fact they don't have a balanced class, does it matter, or is this arguably the best class, 1 through 10, top 10 recruits in the country? There are so many different ways to look at the LSU class. I love their top 10 recruits, and I would put their top 10 against anybody else and just talk about long-term projection for the NFL. I think you could nominate LSU as the best. Again, it's not the most balanced class. Still trying to figure out quarterback. All of that I understand. But LSU has tremendous talent in their class, and they've got linemen. 17 out of the top 30 kids, as I mentioned earlier, are offensive linemen or defensive linemen in the Rivals top 30 player rankings. That's not a coincidence. Linemen win games. Linemen win championships. Yeah, it's fun talking about receivers and all that, and they're important. Linemen win championships. The teams that win in the trenches, and LSU's usually one of them, end up in the playoffs and doing well. LSU's positioning themselves well. So we'll see how that goes. But Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. We'll be talking more about individual classes and recruits. Start breaking down some film now that some of it's out there and just talking about the best players around the nation here on the Portal Podcast. So like and subscribe. We will see you again soon on the Portal Podcast.